Detours. Brought to you by Sports and Spokes, the magazine for wheelchair sports and recreation. For the newcomer, the game of rugby seems chaotic, but taking a deeper look, it's actually quite complex with much more strategy than first meets the eye.
Yes, there is a method to the madness. I was joking with my friends when I first had them come out to a tournament. I was like, listen, it is going to look like a cluster and a mess. But I said, trust me, there's a method. And I tried explaining my role. And after a few games, they're like, okay, I see what you're talking about.
There is a lot of strategy going on in the sport. Everything we run are set plays. There is a lot of improvisation, just like any sport. Like, think of it like basketball or hockey or any of those. You're trying to run your play. You have set things everybody is supposed to do, but then you have to react to the other team.
I played a little bit of everything growing up, but then soccer and basketball were like my main things in high school. But soccer's the only sport I played all 4 years, and there are a lot of similarities in terms of just being able to like control. Like you have dominant players. A lot of times you're midfielder, right, that controls the possession of the ball.
The tactical part, I think it just takes time to develop. So I still feel like a novice because I've only been playing for 4 years. And I don't think that's a lot of time, to fully grasp the game, to really understand it. And as you go up in levels, it gets harder and harder.
I would say the big thing about like this sport is just the communication on the court. You can be out there and if I'm out there and no one's talking and I'm talking, I'll get lost sometimes.
When I look at the sports, I'm mashed up between 4 different sports that they kind of threw into one. So there's just a lot of different rules to try to understand and figure out, and nuances when you go into the court from inbounding, you have to go in within a 45 degree. Otherwise, it's illegal entry. The way you can reach, you can't go for the ball and hit somebody. Person-to-person contact's not allowed, but chair-to-chair is.
We'd like to take a minute to thank our sponsor, Sports and Spokes magazine. For nearly 50 years, they've produced stories on iconic athletes performing at the top of their game, given generational coverage of sports dating back to the 1970s, and they've shown the way with exciting and timeless magazine cover shots. To stay on top of all the latest news from the world of high-performance adaptive sports, go to sportsandspokes.com. Sports and Spokes, the magazine for wheelchair sports and recreation. To understand the game of rugby, it's necessary to know the point system on the floor, as it opens the door to more people being involved. The first rule is that all 4 limbs must be affected. The game is open to men and women, with each player assigned a point valuation from 0.5 to 3.5 based upon their ability. With 4 players on the court at one time, the maximum total point value on the court is 8. All women get a half-point deduction from their classification, as do older players starting at age 45.
So my classification is a 2, but since I'm a female, we get a 0.5 reduction. So on the court, I play as a 1.5. But so I'm usually the inbounder, and I play with my high pointers and my low pointers, working around them and trying to not basically ball handle, but definitely always be an option.
My classification is a 1.5, so I'm a low pointer, and my job is to stop the other defenders and let our faster guys score.
I would say low pointers are kind of like offensive linemen, and high pointers are kind of like quarterback and receivers.
I'm a new player, so I'm not officially classed yet, but I'm a mid-pointer, so 2.5-ish. And my responsibility there depends on what lineup we're running, but I usually support the main ball handler and try to set pick.
I'm a 2.5 to start with, and that basically means I have no core. I have pretty good hands. Puts me in an offensive chair, and I'm an offensive player. But I'm usually not what we call the one man, who is the guy that you have running the ball.
Well, I'm a 3.5, which is the highest classification you can be. I have the most function without being outclassed of the sport. And my main role on the team for my team is the high guy usually, but also the main thing is the number one ball holder. So if I'm able to get free or if I'm able to get positioned in some way to get the ball to me, that's what I need to do.
Because you're the main ball handler, people come to the ball often, so you try to make your teammates better by giving a dish and giving an assist for a pass. And on defense, my job is to be the best defender because I have the most function. So my job is to be an animal on defense.
So I'm classified as a 3.5, and so primarily that classification is the result of me having high function, both with hands and all upper body things. So I'm what you consider a ball carrier, and responsible for doing a lot of the passing, kind of controlling possession throughout the play of the game, and then just making sure I'm not turning the ball over. That's probably most important, as much as me scoring, because anybody can score, but just making sure I'm not the one turning the ball over.
So as far as the ball carrier goes, the main rules you got to follow is 10-second dribbles. So you got to dribble every 10 seconds or pass the ball. For offensively, you want to get across the court by 12 seconds. And that's the biggest things. No holding chairs, no grabbing people. But every 10 seconds you got to dribble, and then you got to have ball in possession when you cross the try line to score.
D1, the transitions are real fast, so they'll get on you and try to swarm you as fast as possible. It's all about angles, so they're trying to position you so where you can't inbound the ball, so it's tough, definitely tough.
A big part carrying the ball is seeing gaps, because I guess football would be a good comparison. When you're a running back in football, your job is to watch the line and see where a gap opens up and then hit that gap hard. When you're a ball carrier in rugby, it's very similar to that. You have low pointers, the guys in the picker chairs, the hooker chairs, or the hook chairs, and they're kind of opening gaps for you. They're trying to chip and catch the other team's defensive players so that you can see that moment and then hit it,
When we're against a high pointer, most of the times we will have a high pointer with us to help. And as a low pointer, we are just trying to get our picker on their front end and hold them. So that way, once the ball is inbounded, the other defender can leave and we will have them hooked with our picker.
I like to refer to the low point chairs as sort of like a hammerhead shark head. And they kind of bow out to the sides, and they want to use those little sides to hook into the front of my chair, where my wheel meets the metal part in the front. And when you get it really sunk in with like the heavier low pointers, they'll lock in and they have the weight behind them to really keep me in. So that's also part of my role, is like staying out of that and staying free, because when they lock into me, I can thrash around and maybe get out, but not always.
To be a successful team, rugby requires a level of teamwork that perhaps surpasses that of any other sport.
So the camaraderie definitely helps. You can have an all-star, but if no one's communicating and no one's working, it'll work for a little bit, but eventually you can't be a one-man band playing rugby,
I'd have to say chemistry more than anything. There's a reason that Team USA gets together for these 11-day camps, is because you're not just teammates, you're family at that point. And having that continuity and meshing with your team as much as possible, building that relationship with your teammates is the most important it's way more important than having just one star player.